Again, welcome to Decoding the SEO Success Secrets of Drift. Decoding SEO Success Secrets is the series where we break down the SEO strategy of popular software companies so that you can deploy them yourself. And the reason being is that I've written many guides about SEO, many articles and many how-tos. And there are many guides and articles and how-tos on the internet, but I do think sometimes it is more exciting to see SEO in the wild and see what people are actually doing than just reading an abstract guide. And this is how this series was born. And why are we looking at Drift today specifically? I put a poll up on LinkedIn about 3 weeks ago after the last webinar, and I said, like, you know, what is the website that you want us to look at? I put up Qualtrics in the employee engagement space, Lattice, performance management, and then Drift, because I've been thinking a lot about Drift. I've been thinking a lot about coining language, about category creation, and how to marry that with SEO. And it seems a lot of you guys have been thinking about the same. And so Drift was the clear winner. And so Drift is whom we are looking at today. I run a digital marketing agency called Flow SEO, where we focus on SEO strategies for software startups. We recently got shortlisted both for the global and the European Search Award for B2B SEO. So a few people seem to think we know what we're doing. And me and my team have kind of like put together this research for you. Curious, hi, Johannes from Frankfurt. I would love to know what industry you're in. If you are actually in more tech like Drift, where are you calling in from? And also, what is your experience with SEO? Hi, Alan, as well. I see familiar names that I also know from LinkedIn, etc. And so that is nice to see. Yeah, like I said, what makes Drift such an interesting example? So I don't know if you're in the marketing space, if you're particularly in the B2B marketing space, I think you might come across Drift quite a bit as an example of someone who gets B2B marketing right. I'm a big fan of Dave Gerhardt. So if you like to follow influencers on LinkedIn, Dave Gerhardt is a good one to follow. He has a community called Exit 5 where he teaches B2B marketing, and he's from Drift. And what Drift kind of is like infamous for in the marketing community is creating the terminology conversational marketing. And so when we talk about launching a software company and describing who you are and what you do, there's basically always like two paths to success. There's one, trying to establish yourself in a category that already exists, or two, creating a new category. And so an existing category might be something like CRM system or chatbot or project management tools. These are established categories. People know what that is. They know what to expect. They know the big names in that category. And what Drift has done really, really well is push that category conversational marketing. I put a screenshot here that shows from Google Trends, how has the search interest for that search term conversational marketing developed over time. And you can see how it's really picked up the last 3 or 4 years. And you can see that G2, that rates and ranks software companies, has a category now actually for conversational marketing software. And so they did really well getting famous for that term conversational marketing. They have podcasts around this. They have thought leadership articles around this. They have influencers like Dave Gerhardt who talked about this, and the founders of Drift. And so they've done really, really well positioning themselves in a new category and not competing in the traditional market of chatbots. And they're also good at SEO. They're a company founded in 2015. Today, they have a domain rating of 84, so very strong, and they rank for more than 54,000 keywords. But what's maybe more interesting, that ranking chart here on the top is from Ahrefs. That shows the overall amount of keywords that the site is being indexed for. And you can see a big push that they even had last year. But what's kind of hard to see on the bottom is the number of page 1 rankings that they have. And of course, your page 1 rankings are the ones that are giving you the clicks, that are giving you the traffic. And you can see how they've been consistently able to grow page 1 rankings as well. And so today, We're going to talk about how did they structure their website and their SEO content over the last 4 or 5 years. How are they using pillar pages and how can you use one yourself? And then most importantly, how do you marry coining your own language, creating your own category with SEO efforts and what people are searching for today? And in the meantime, I will say, Valentina, great to see you here. Juliana from Brazil, Kim, Bay Area, Macy from Tennessee, Daniel from Mexico. Excited to have you all on for this. All right, let's start with, actually, let's start maybe with a virtual show of hands. If you don't know yet what Drift is, for lack of a better term, chatbot and prospecting and CRM software, even though they don't like to call themselves that. And so if you've ever been to a website and a little chatbot pops up in the bottom asking you to do many things, that oftentimes is a Drift chatbot. You can see one here on their own website. So let's talk about their website structure first. I like to start at website structure because it helps getting holistic perspective on what they're doing and why. And then I want to talk about where do they have all their SEO content. So starting, if you type site.drift into Google, sorry for the screenshot being in German. I am German. I am based in Berlin. Google finds more than 9,000 pages on the Drift websites, which first that sounds really a lot. And you're like, how come that the software company has so many pages? But really they have, I think 5 or 6 podcasts. They have their dev docs, they have the help center, they have app, they have the community forum, all on subdomains. And all of this is content that we wouldn't consider classically SEO content. And so when we think about what is the core of their website, how many pages do they have, what's really the content that we're thinking about when we want to be ranking, they really only have 1,600 pages that are interesting to look at from that perspective. And on the pie chart on the side, you can see what type of pages they are having. And you can see the huge part of the pie chart is made up by blog content. So 62% of all of the pages are blog posts. One side note here is like, how was I able to spot their page types so easily and conveniently is because they have a really neat URL structure. So the entire URL structure is literally drift.com/blog for all the blog posts. But then they're making my life very easy because they also do drift.com /press releases for press releases, drift.com /newsletters for newsletters. And so it's very easy to spot what type of pages you're having. It also helps with siloing for SEO, and it also helps with tracking in Google Analytics. If you want to quickly see what parts of your website are getting lots of organic traffic, what parts of your website are working and converting, then this is a really good way to see it. And so if you're building a new site or if you're spending time restructuring a site, having a very clean URL structure not only helps you to pull up a pie chart really quickly, it also helps you to track success really effectively. And so in all of these pages that they're having, there's really 4 main page types that are interesting from an SEO perspective. Their blog post, then what they have, their Learn Center, their feature pages that they call platform, and their solution pages. And when I say interesting for SEO, what do I mean? These are pages that are potentially evergreen, that mostly host long form content and that have a very clear keyword mapping. And so these are the ones that we can be optimizing and ranking. The opposite of SEO content is your press release, a feature update from 3 years ago, an announcement about celebrating Women's Day, etc., which is all good and meaningful things to post. But these are things that are usually short in word count. They don't really have a good keyword associated with them, and they're very time bound, which means they go out of date really, really quickly. And so, yeah, you can see they have about 1,000 blog posts, 54 feature pages, 31 learn pages, and then 12 solution pages. And I'm going to walk you through all 4 types of content for SEO, and I'm going to tell you what are they doing right and how you can do the same. Let's start with an easy one, blog. As I said, they have more than 1,000 articles on their blog. And so the question is like, how well are these articles actually done for SEO? And so the first thing to note is their blog is not just the home of evergreen SEO pieces, but it's also the home of their editorial content and their time-bound updates. And you can see that one is that they haven't broken down the blog into topic categories, for example, sales or marketing or lead generation. They've only broken it down by content type, which I think is a bit of a missed opportunity, both for siloing for SEO and then also for people actually finding the types of things that they're looking for. And so we've pulled the average word count on the blog here. And typically when we think about SEO content, we think about long form content. We think about 800 words, 1,000 words, 2,000 words. But you can see that the blog is pretty mixed. And that has to do with the fact that they also have these feature updates and other notifications. They all house that in the blog, and they have not broken that down into further categories. What I do think is very interesting is like how much these guys are writing in terms of content. And so we had a look, it's like how often do they publish on the blog in the last 4 years? And you can see that starting in 2019, they published more than 200 blog posts per year, which means that's an average of 18 blog posts per month. And so when we think about how much traction they had in rankings, how consistently their visibility has been growing, their number of keywords indexed and their page 1 rankings, a lot has to do with the sheer volume and momentum they've built with creating content. And so when I talk with my clients, everyone always asks like, how much content do I need to write for SEO? What's the right type amount of content to ask to write? And so I always say the bare minimum criteria to make sense for working with us is writing 1 blog post per week. You can probably write less, but are you going to get like meaningful traction? Does it make sense to pay an SEO agency like us if you're writing a lot less? Probably not. And so if you do 1 per week, you're doing, let's say, like 50, 55 in a year, which leaves you at like a quarter of what Drift has been doing the last 4 years. So 1 a week, I would say, is like the entry ticket to participate in the game. And when I say 1 per week, I mean specifically SEO content. So something that has a keyword that can be optimized, that is potentially evergreen. You still might want to be updating, like I said, your company updates, your feature updates on top of that, but they're not giving you that meat in terms of like relevance and word count as an SEO article would. I would say the sky is almost the limit in terms of how much content you can publish. I recently made a LinkedIn post how many startups are starting to publish glossaries because they don't want to flood their SEO content with their blog with so much SEO content. And so if you're worried that your blog role is going to get overwhelmed with 18 posts a month, there's other ways to organize this. And there's other places that you can put articles and SEO blog posts up. And one thing to make this better is probably adding blog categories by topic as well. And so, yeah, that's just something to think about if you're wondering like how much should I be writing? Potentially a lot. And when I say writing, I just want to clarify that it's either publishing a new article for SEO or updating an article for SEO as well. Any questions, comments, concerns, remarks on the blog and how much they're publishing on the blog? If so, you can either unmute yourself for a second and tell me, or if you prefer, you can also pop it in the chat. I always can pop questions in the chat. I'm having an eye on the chat. This is why I'm having the second screen and have to stare to the side to change the slides. The other place, like I just mentioned, if you're worried about SEO content production flooding your blog, or you want to publish other type of content on your blog, is establishing a resource center. Drift calls this Learn Center. So when you go to /learn, they basically have a lot of content there as well. And then Keith just asked, what's the best way to measure, track that publishing frequency? I will give a shout out to Helene from our team, who figured out how you can use this schema markup to custom extract the publishing and the modified date with Screaming Frog. And then you can slap it from a Screaming Frog export into your content audit and keep an eye on it. And then Johanna says, my experience, even super thin content, marked as glossary content, performs great. I think, yeah, it depends on the keyword. Typically speaking, I think the more competitive it gets, usually you require more word count. But if you go more long tail, more specific, we've recently seen some FAQ pages rank extremely well. I do think that short content can rank as well. All right. /learn. This is the SEO dream come true. You come to Drift/learn. It's clearly broken down into different topics. And it houses a lot of Drift's pillar pages. And when I say pillar pages, I mean, it's either 10x content, which this is the idea of I'm writing the best, longest, most detailed guide that the world has ever seen, or of further hubs that expand into even more guides. And I'm going to show you exactly how they've done it. So there have been, the 30 pages have largely been published in 2019 and 20, but seems to have been updated in the last 2 years as well, which is to my point. Like if you want to keep ranking, you want to keep updating those pages. And here you can see the word count, and you can see this tells a very different story already. Yes, they also have 6 articles that have between 500 and 1,000 words, but then word count dramatically goes up. And so you can see that they have articles between 2,000 and 5,000 words, largely in that Learn Center. And so that is a 10x kind of like approach that Brian Dean from Backlinko and other people also talk about, is like really making the best piece of content that's out there. And yeah, shout out to Helene for making all these charts for me and teaching me a lot about pivot tables and how to do the content audit better. Drift is getting rewarded for their long form content by super good page 1 rankings. And so you can see that demand generation marketing, they're in position 1, AI, chatbot, field marketing, Salesforce automation, chatbots, sales prospecting. And so all of these like very competitive, high traffic, top of funnel keyword live largely in their Learn Center. And so was it really necessary to put such a huge amount of word count up there? Like Johannes just mentioned, can short and thin content also rank? Sadly, with SEO, often long form content ranks extremely well. And so this is a chart with the average word count on page 1 for the keyword demand generation marketing. And you can see that Drift simply outwrote the competition with 4,000 words and just wrote the longest beast that is out there. There's different, when you do write long content like this, there's other considerations that you need to make for user experience, like the layout of the page, table of content, breaking it down smartly. But I think one of the reasons why long form content works well for SEO is because it is easier to use the keyword more often in a non-spammy, non-keyword stuffing way. And so does every single page that you want to rank for needs to be 5,000 words? Absolutely not. Do some of your very competitive top of funnel keywords need a long form guide? Potentially, yes. And so this is why in the next part of the webinar, I will talk a bit about how to think about pillar pages and how to create them. Questions, comments, thoughts on the Learn Center for now? I might give you some time to type in the chat too. I realized I don't want to didn't wait long enough, and then people were typing, and then it popped in. I already moved on, so we'll see. The next type of pages I will talk about then are your feature and your solution pages, because a lot of the things that we discuss now are middle and top of funnel keywords, right? It's your typical informational intent, educational intent. And of course, you want all these keywords because you want to be creating touch points with your audience, especially in a B2B context where the sales cycle is long and potentially complex and complicated. And it's not a matter of someone putting a $20 Canva subscription into a checkout. But also, obviously, you want to be ranking for more transactional keywords. And there's typically at least 2 places on the websites where these can live. And for Drift, these are living, one, on their feature pages. I call these feature pages. Drift, you can see, uses the Slug platform. Sometimes people call this product pages. I think this is a bit up to your liking to decide what you call the slug. But these are basically the pages that list out all of their features. And I put here the top keyword, which is not necessarily always the keyword that they intended to rank for, but you can see that the URL structure is already very clean. And so you can see that they have the chatbot, conversation cloud, conversational AI, conversational marketing. All of these keywords are living for them here on their feature pages. And then they have a second set of pages, which they call solution pages, which you will also like. Similar, they have clean solution. And here they have more abstract, one step like higher transactional keywords. So the feature pages are very functional, tactical. And then their solution pages are, what are we really doing? What is the problem we're solving for? Having a custom chatbot or having a chatbot automation is the last step in a process of making decision. But what are people are really trying to do, right? They want a better sales prospecting process. They want to manage their deals. They want to help customer service. And so all these keywords for them live on the solution pages. And so this kind of like brings me, we've been talking with the team and some clients recently a lot, feature pages, product pages, solution pages, like what is what, how do they belong together? What is actually the hierarchy between these pages and how do they fit in the funnel? And so I want to talk about that for a second. Generally speaking, when we think about funnels and winning customers, we often talk about top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel. It's often shown literally as a funnel. In this chart, it goes from the right, from the top of the funnel to the left, and I'll explain in a second why that is so. But basically, the idea is that on the left, you have your most aware people. These are the people who know they have a problem. They know what potential solutions for these problems are. They know what benefits to expect. They know the main players in the space, and they potentially also know your brand. And they're basically looking to make a decision right now. On the right hand of the spectrum are the people who are most unaware. They are not even aware that there could be a better way to generate leads. They're still mainly working with lead forms. They've never heard about a chatbot. They've never heard about ungating content. They never heard about demand generation. And so they obviously have different needs than the people further down the funnel. And the idea is that we can serve people content on every step along the funnel to nurture them and to educate them more. And so your blog posts and your Learn Center are often more on the top of the funnel content. It's either unaware people that you're engaging with stories, secrets, blog posts, or guides, or it's people who are problem aware, but they don't know the solution yet. They know they struggle with MQLs. They know their lead quality is not good. They know they want more leads. But they don't know yet that the chatbot could be the answer. And so these are the people that you talk about benefits and pains. You can use blog posts, guides, white papers, and studies to educate them. Then there's people who already know that they have an issue, and they already know that a chatbot or a prospecting tool or better CRM is potentially the solution. And so here it's a matter of showing what you do differently, proving that you're doing it well, showing your case studies and potentially your solution pages as well. So people already know you and know that they want you, kind of like here. These are the people you have the buying guides, reviews, the case studies, competitor comparison, feature pages. These are the people who already put dramatic consideration into figuring out that they have a problem, how to solve the problem, and now they're just trying to figure out the right vendor. And so they're at a very different stage. And so why did I put this like from left to right? Is because you can also think about your website structure in a very similar way. So your resources and your Learn Center are often more for the top and middle of funnel content. And then you have your solution pages for people who know that this is the type of thing that they want. You might have competitor pages. Drift has a very nice page that's optimized for Drift versus Intercom. And so they are owning that narrative if people are trying to compare Drift to Intercom. And then you have the feature or platform pages. And then what Drift does not have, Drift has rolled that into solutions. But what's normally nice is to break apart industries or audience. And so if someone types in customer service, chatbot for financial services, customer service, prospecting tool for financial services, these are obviously pretty hot to go as well and know exactly what they want. And so it can be nice breaking these guys out into an industry or audience page. And so kind of like, what did we talk about? Blog posts and Learn Center as a tool to get unaware people or problem-aware people further down the funnel, create those first touch points, and then use your feature and solution pages for the people that are more bottom of funnel, more ready to make a buying decision, and that have much more precise search queries. And then similar, like the funnel, has more people on the top and they get fewer and fewer at the bottom. This is also how it largely happens with keyword volume. Like your high keyword volume Learn Center keywords are usually out here. And then the more and more targeted you go, it usually gets lower and lower and lower. And so sales prospecting software is already a lot less search volume than someone is like how to close more deals or generating more leads or lead generation. But that is also less search volume than someone who types sales prospecting software for financial services. And so there's that hierarchy in search traffic here as well. And I'm going to take a moment to breathe and have you think about whether you have a question. And in that, Johannes said about the topic, top of funnel content, long form content, he says, Google is picking out sections from huge amount of text and Google is satisfied by quick and rich answers to concrete answers. So the long form content is going to be sliced up. I agree with this. One thing you will say is like that when you type a thing, that Google will often, when you click on a search result, not send you to the top of the page of the long form page. It sends you to the jump mark of the headline that is most relevant to what you're doing. So that's one thing. And then I like to talk about my probably not so much tinfoil hat theory anymore, which is that Google is also kind of over of SEOs writing long form content for everything. And this is why we have the featured snippet. Because if someone wants apple pie recipe, feature snippet puts it right up there and you don't need to read 2,000 words about how your grandma gave you the apple pie recipe anymore. And so I agree with that. And I do think with BERT and some of the recent algorithm changes, maybe there's hope for the SEO community that Google starts understanding search intent even better and starts ranking shorter pages again. And one place where we actually see it is landing pages. So industry features, competitor pages. So if you type sales prospecting software and Google is seeing a more comparison intent, then you will see 17 best sales prospecting software. You will see Capterra, you will see G2, you will see Trust Radius. And this is when Google thinks this is still pretty high comparison intent. But if you're fortunate, Google will start ranking landing pages. And so if you type sales prospecting software and you see sales pages from other companies, which are shorter and more conversion focused and not so high in word count, that could be a pretty good sign to send a landing page also into the race. And I've written a guide about this on Ahrefs. So if you type Ahrefs landing page SEO, you can read that. So what do we learn so far? We learned that Drift has been gaining in visibility, rankings, and traffic pretty rapidly. We know that they're producing a whole lot of content. They're publishing 18 blog posts a month for the last 4 years. And we know that they've built out a very nice Learn Center for long form guides. And then we know that they're updating their feature and solution pages for keywords. And so out of all the things that we could be talking about, I want to talk about how they created their pillar pages specifically, because it leads into another discussion, which is that discussion of category creation, generating demand and capturing demand that's already there. So what is a pillar page? I've been starting to get really good in using the language like this, but you will hear different things kind of like floating around when you think about pillar pages. You hear people talk about SEO silos. You hear people talk about hubs or clusters. You talk people about pillars. What all of these people are trying to grasp at is creating a structure that makes it easier for Google to understand relevance. So what all of them are trying to do is have semantically related topics in the same space of the website so that Google can find them easily, crawl them easily, and index them easily. And so pillar pages, I think it's maybe, yeah, we used to, the SEOs always talk about silos. I think content marketers talk more about pillar pages, but it's a very, very similar idea. In my mind, there's like four different types of pillar pages. The hub, the 10x content, the hybrid, and then I put in brackets the service. I'm not going to talk about service today, but I've written about it in the past. So a hub is a pillar page that is typically not meant to rank themselves, but it's meant to organize content and cluster everything in the same spot. And so this is a hub page of Qualtrics that I really like how they structured their website. And so you can see that it has employee experience here. It has a little paragraph, but it doesn't have that much content. But then it basically lists all of their articles that are related to employee experience. So you have employee engagement, employee experience, employee lifecycle, and it's basically a hub. It's a content library. And the aim of this is to structure your website, to have related stuff in one place, and also work a bit more like a resource library. Like this is in many ways much more user-friendly than a broad role sorted by date, because people can find everything related to that one topic in one space. And Google likes it for internal linking and structure as well. And then when we talk about pillar pages, we talk about 10x content. And so these are your skyscraper guides, ultimate guides, 10x content, whatever is the language that you want to be using, but it basically means a really long article. And the aim of that article is to rank well for SEO. And so showing an example from these guys. So this is not their hub, this is their article about employee engagement. And you can see this one also has links here, but these are all jump marks going deeper in the article. And so you can see this, what is employee engagement, why is it important, etc. You can find all of this stuff. And then you can find the hybrid. And the hybrid is both a hub and a 10x pillar page, which means it does have the long form content to rank well, but it's also linking out to many other articles in that same hub or pillar. And so, for example, Drift has this hub on demand generation, and you can see it's a long form article. What is demand generation? Why is it important? Why does it matter? So this is all word counts that Google loves. But then, for example, if you go here, demand generation metrics, it leads you to a new page. So it's been a hub for those that is like optimized for the next thing here. And so start from beginning. No, I don't want that. Let's see. There we go. So Drift largely uses the hybrid, which is a combination of long form content and hub. And so quick look on their Learn hub. Like I said, 32 pages. And you can see the first one, /learn, is a true hub, pretty short in word count, basically linking out to all of the other stuff. And then all of the other ones are 10x content. So you can see here 1,200 words, 3,900 words, 1,800 words. Like, okay, there's a couple of exceptions, but with 500 words, but most of them are really, really long, you can see. And then there's like little sub hubs within it, essentially. So most of them are just guides listed from the main page. But then, for example, for chatbot, it's a little sub hub. It has a main page chatbot, and then it breaks down into other pages. Or here, lead generation, like I just showed you. It's that mix where the main page is a hub and 10x content, and then it has that supporting content here as well. And so if you ever create a pillar page and it stays stuck in ranking and you're building links and you're optimizing and it's not moving, it's maybe a good time to think about putting up some supporting content to move it up in rankings as well. So how do you create a pillow page? One, always start with a content audit and collect your existing assets for two reasons. If you already put in the effort of writing a bunch of content, that is something that you want to keep on using, that you want to be utilizing again. You just don't just want to throw it into the bin. And by the way, when I say existing assets, this might include your PDFs, research study, white papers, so content that you've never published for SEO before, but is actually good quality and long form and could be published for SEO. The second reason why you want to do a content audit is that you want to make sure that if you are already optimized and ranking for a keyword, that you want to keep working on that existing piece and you don't want to launch a second page, to compete with that. Google is very, very strict with that. And you're already competing with billions of websites on the internet for top ranking. So don't confuse Google by launching the same type of keywords on 5 pages, and then 5 pages are competing with each other. Google is all confused about which is the most important one. So if you already have a page, you either want to keep optimizing it or move it somewhere else. But if you already have it and it's already ranking, you don't want to be launching a second page for the exact same keyword. And so content audit is a really good first step for that. The other thing, I think, like the classic SEO, it makes sense, is your keyword and competitor research. And keyword research is really like the market research, demand capturing research that you can be doing. And at the point, keyword research is similar to brainstorming. Anything goes. Like anything is a good keyword when you're in the process of keyword research. Because you're just trying to understand the landscape. You're trying to understand what is competitive, what is not competitive, what has lots of search volume, what is not, what type of pages are ranking. And so at this point, you just want to understand the entire landscape. And then in the third step, you want to make a content calendar keyword mapping. And so this is when you prioritize. And this is when you realize that some keywords are just too hard for you to tackle anytime soon. Some keywords sound good on paper, but the search volume is too low. And then most importantly, some keywords your competitors are ranking for, but they just don't make sense for your business. And so you want to double check what is actually relevant to your business, what is actually going to meaningfully drive people down the funnel. And so the content calendar in my mind is what turns the analysis of the keyword research into an action plan and the things that we actually want to be doing. And as you're doing that, you also want to make sure that you're clustering keywords together. So one page is typically not optimized for one keyword, but for one main keyword and a set of supporting keywords that satisfies the same search intent. The fourth step is creating a page layout and a URL structure. Again, you can see how neat the URL structure of Drift is. Right? It's very clean. It's just a keyword in the URL. It's hyper-focused. It has its own place. And I think part of the reason why people are launching now these learn hubs, pillar pages, or glossaries, again, is because it means they can put out a lot of SEO content at once without disturbing the blog. And it also means you can make a page layout of your liking, and you have more flexibility there. For table of contents, for internal linking, etc., than maybe you would want on your blog. And then I put some tips here for content publishing and optimization. I will say with this stuff, you are not going to find me to be a very detailed focused SEO. Actually, you never find me to be very detailed focused. But with this specifically is doing your research and getting the structure right is like what 80% going to get you there. Yes, of course, once you've written the article, you should put the keyword into the headline 1. Yes, but that is like the last tactical step on a long thought process of figuring out what are you doing and where are you putting it. And so once you have the right structure, once you pick the right keywords, that is kind of like the path to success. And then, including your keyword in the headline 1, into the first paragraph, into the subheadings, that is the thing that your content writer does before you publish it. And so, yeah, we typically put the main keyword in the URL, as you've seen, and also make the URL short and only the main keyword. In the page title, potentially in the meta description, in the headline 1, only one headline 1. Use the main keyword in the first paragraph, and in the end of the page, if possible, in a natural way. But if you're talking about a topic, I assume you're introducing the topic and wrapping it up. So I think it's a given. And then use the subheadlines, and the rest of the content, use the supporting keywords. If you optimize extremely well with the right structure, with the right prioritization, and if you get the main keyword right, you'll be able to rank a huge variety of supporting keywords. And so even though there's maybe only 4 or 5 keyword variations on your page, the page might rank for 10, 20, 30, 200, 300, 400 keywords if you do it right. And you will rank for a lot of keywords that have never appeared on the page, just because Google understands that it's semantically related and that it's a variation. We have an article on our blog. So if you go to flow-seo.com/blog, you can find our article around how to make pillar pages, and you might like it. Questions, comments, concern, feedback on the idea of creating a pillar page? Then I want to talk about, why did I start talking about pillar pages to, thank you, Khan. Why did I start writing about pillar pages to begin with? Out of all of the things that I could have been talking about for Drift, why did I decide to talk about pillar pages? And it's this topic of category creation, coining language, choosing your own language, and meeting people where they're at and capturing existing demand. And so again, if you're in the B2B marketing space, Drift has taken a super strong stand for conversational marketing. It's what they really build their brand around. And about the fact that a chatbot is a commodity, it's not interesting, it's not getting people excited, etc. And so, what do you do with the keywords? Like, what is the relationship between the two, and how do you reconcile those differences? So what I've shown you is that in the last 5 years, the search volume for the term conversational marketing has kept on growing and growing and growing. And so coining the language and creating that demand and creating that category is definitely working for Drift. On the other hand, the search volume for chatbot has been increasing massively as well, which is the red line. And it has increased so massively that conversational marketing all of a sudden just looks like a flat line on the chart, even though it was going uphill before. And so Ahrefs, which is this chart here on the top, says that chatbot has 19,000 searches in the US per month and 170,000 globally per month, whilst conversational marketing has 800 searches in the US per month and 3,800 per month. And so, yeah, I don't want to go too much into the branding, messaging, positioning aspect of this, because I think I'm not really equipped to speak to this in a good way. But it seems like Drift decided is like, we do actually want to capture some of that demand for chatbot. And not using the language chatbot on the site might actually be a problem in terms of missing out customers where they're at. And other people might be taking up that market share for chatbot if we are not going after it. And so how have they reconciled this is talking about pillars, talking about siloing is they use 2 different pillars to target the 2 keyword terms. And so they can obviously focus, like I showed the screenshot from their website, all of their copy, all of their branding is focused on, everything starts with a conversation, conversational marketing, conversational sales. They keep talking about that consistently, but they do have a space on the website where they talk about chatbots. And they have a pillar page to talk about chatbot. And so I started with, I said they have a pillar page also talking about conversational marketing. So this is their cluster, this is their hub for conversational marketing. So you can see that they actually have drift.com/conversational marketing. They have a 10x content page with 2,400 words, where they have the typical SEO, what is conversational marketing? Why does it matter? How does it change the landscape? And they have that. And then they have a series of blog posts, book reports, and things that go around that allow them to rank for conversational marketing related terms. And then they do have bunch of blog posts, but they also have these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 10x guides around chatbots in their Learn Hub. And this seems like obvious for an SEO, but I don't think it's very obvious for a branding expert that is trying to tell a really strong narrative. And I think that's what making it astonishing here. And then Johanna says, to target chatbot for many keywords, it helps to write 20 to 30 glossary answer post, 200 to 300 words for 0 search volume keywords. Yeah, I agree. I think for 0 search volume keywords, I think could work if they're there, or low search volume. I do think, generally speaking, also from another client, I know a little bit about the conversational AI space. It is quite competitive. And so I think that is why, for the obvious terms like chatbot benefits, how do they work? They went with the 10x pillar approach. All right. What did we learn? We talked about how does Drift structure their website for SEO and content. And we learned that they have 4 main places in which they create evergreen content that ranks for SEO. They have their blog posts, they have their Learn Center, and they have their feature pages, and they have their solution pages. We learned that they use their Learn Center as a designated spot to house all of their pillar pages, which is a mix of hub pillar pages and 10x content pillar pages. And all of that is the home of their more informational, educational top of funnel queries. And they also use that Learn Center as a place to sneak in the unloved chatbot keywords that they don't want on their homepage, that they don't want on their feature page, that they don't want in their messaging. They move that into that Learn Hub to capture some of that existing demand, which is so much bigger than the term they're coining and the category that they're creating. If you ever want to chat SEO with me, my email is at viola@flow-seo.com. You can always happy to reach out. Otherwise, I said it a few times, I'm very proud of the blog content that we've been recently producing. And so I invite you to have a look at flow-seo.com/blog. I also post twice a week on LinkedIn if you're interested in SEO and content marketing related things. And I'm happy for you to follow me there. And then otherwise, I will say we'll have one more webinar in July. And then in August, I'll take a little summer break. And so I will announce on LinkedIn and on my newsletter when that July webinar is going to be. And if you have a specific topic or company that you would like us to look at, then feel free to pop it in the chat or reach out to me via email or LinkedIn. I'll do that as well.